Today, I'd like to talk about something quite important, but it might be a little bit difficult to grasp, especially if you have been attacked by this scenario. Let's call it a scenario. I'm going to call it a attack by a neural viral program. Maybe that's a little complicated. One of the things that the advanced cultures, the negative, let's say the negative cultures, the dark stellans, one of the things they taught to the human groups and some of the magicians and even some of the believers, the alien believers who go out there in front of an audience, right? They taught them how to attack people. And they can attack people by infecting them with this kind of a neural, let's say even a genetic virus. But it's a program. It's a false program, and it infects an individual. So some of these programs, they seem like normal and they seem like they've been around for a while, but these are advanced neural programs that can counteract your own programming. They can supersede. So they go on top of your programming and they lead you into the wrong direction. That's what they do. They don't change who you are, but they change your direction. They change your focus. And they lead you off, and at the end of your life, you're completely off track and you did not accomplish anything or very little of what you came here to do. And that's the purpose. The purpose is to misdirect, to change your directory, to take you off of who you are and why you're here. And why is it important when we talk about the alternative, when we talk about alternative knowledge, when we talk about extraterrestrials, aliens, UFOs, all that stuff, it is very prevalent. But it comes from advanced cultures. They taught this to the secret societies, they taught this to the magicians, and they infected some of the UFO people, or the supposed UFO people, with these false narratives, these false programs, these viruses. They're really it's like a virus, but it's not a virus that it's not a virus that you inject into the body. It's a virus that's transmitted through DNA. And it's not a virus that can destroy you. It's a virus that just changes your perception, your beliefs. Now, so one of these, let's talk about a few of them. Okay, let's try to figure out a few of them. One of them is something like a cult. A cult, cult worshippers who believe all kinds of stuff. They could be infected with this virus, and it changes their belief system. So like an end of the world cult. So that is the kind of programming. They start to see end of the world. They start to see the prophecies. This prophecy is real. That prophecy is real. And they start to chase the end of the world. They start to chase prophecies. And they look in all of the religions for these prophecies, for these end of the world, for signs of the end. That is, to me, an example of someone or a group has been infected. And once one person's infected, they cross-infect the whole group. And the leader is the most infected, and everyone else is just enough to look. You're looking for something that's not there. That's the problem. The program is false. The virus, this neural virus, let's call it, we're going to call it something like it's like a It's like a superficial genetic virus, enough to change your beliefs and your perceptions. And it overrides the rest of you, and you chase something that's not there. So that's one example. Let's say end of the world, because there's no such thing as the end of the world. Hint, hint. The world will never end, period. The world will never end. So that's a false narrative. But the people believe the world will end. They're looking for signs. Right now they're looking for signs. And they've been looking for signs for 3,000, 5,000 years. And it still has not ended. The other one is something like the Pleiadians. But let's associate other of these groups, the Arcturians and the Orions. I don't believe in this stuff. Because it is a false program. It's a virus. It's a well-constructed virus. I think that some of the Pleiadian material is connected to cabal operatives who have built on this false narrative because it controls people. So you're chasing the Pleiadians and the Pleiadian messages and the Arcturians, and then these people are battling and they did this and they did that and they did. But there's no evidence. That's the problem. There's no hard evidence of any of this stuff, right? And if you trace back a lot of the Pleiadian material, you can trace it back to humans, which is cabal operatives. So now you got this next level now. So once the program starts to rewrite you, we'll talk about that in a minute. Once the virus starts to infect you, changes your beliefs, and you go out there to change other people's beliefs, and then you start to look for information, right? You look at Wikipedia, you look at Google, and you look at mythology, and you try to find the answers. What were the Pleiadians called before? What did they look like? Well, the Egyptian god looks like an ant. Maybe they were ants, and they came here, and you start to create a whole false mythology to substantiate, to validate the infection, the program, the false narrative. Because it's a virus, it needs answers. You need to answer it, you need to resolve it. And then you go seeking out people. When you start talking about, yeah, the Pleiadians, and the guy says, yeah, the Pleiadians. Because that's the virus. The virus is now calling out for information. And then you guys what you're doing is creating a whole new mythology. Because none of that's true. The Egyptians and the Greeks have nothing to do with the Pleiadians. But why are people adding all of this, They're adding all of this other information into it because they're trying to solve the riddle. It's like end of the world. End of the world? Well, there's a sign, there's written in the Bible, it's got this scripture, and then look at this thing on the Egyptian hieroglyphics. And then the scientists are saying that the climate's changing, and you're creating this false narrative to fulfill the legacy of the program, which is false. So when you infect somebody with a false program, this superficial genetic program, that's called a genetic program, a genetic virus, it needs to be fulfilled. Otherwise, you're always in pain, right? You're suffering. There's a question. I need to figure out when the world is going to end. At the back of your mind, you're like, yeah. And then somebody says, yeah, you're right. And then you start to look for information. The Pleiadians, yeah, they got a new message. We love you. We are from the 9th dimension. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Whoever said there's 9 dimensions? Who has counted the dimensions? The Pleiadians? Well, where the hell are they? It's in your DNA. Another one, a classic one, and I'm not saying it's all negative, but religion. Religion is from an advanced agency that put inside human beings, there's this thing called the maker of the universe. And then people look for signs, and they accumulate all of this scripture, and they call it a book, because they need to understand God. They need to understand the end of the world. They need to understand the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or whatever the hell they call them. Whatever it is, because there's many of these programs. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you're getting the idea. It's a riddle that has no solution. We've never proven the existence of God. There's no photograph, there's no video, there's no audio, there's no sketch. There's no appearance, there's no visit. There's never been the end of the world. It's never ended. In 4.5 billion years. 4.5 billion years is the age of this planet. And it's still here. Unless it was destroyed and then reassembled, it's still here. Human beings have never been completely wiped out. You could say maybe the dinosaurs, but human beings for millions of years have never been wiped out by something that we can prove with evidence. And so the idea that we will be wiped out in the future is false. And even in the future, if there's going to be some event, it's not going to be the end. It's not going to be the end. And then you have the Pleiadians, who have never shown up, who have never appeared, who say they're from the 9th dimension, who don't even understand science. There's more than 9 planes of reality. So they have a very limited understanding of science. And I've gone through that whole thing. They don't understand the astronomy. The Arcturians, you know, Arcturus is the name of a star, if my astronomy is correct. Arcturus is a star, is a sun. So an Arcturian is from a star, which is pretty hot. And the Pleiadians is from a constellation, a star system, the 9 stars, or the 7. There's 9, I think the 7 main ones. So they're not from a star, they're from 7 stars. That doesn't make sense. I'm not going to get into that again. But so there's different levels of these viral programs, and they have this riddle component. You must resolve the riddle. That's the key thing. The other key thing you should understand is that this kind of virus cannot change you. It doesn't reprogram you. I don't think many things can reprogram you unless it's let's say something very advanced or a chemical that's very powerful combined with other programming techniques. But what reprograms you in this case is you. And what the program has to do, has to convince you that there's enough reason to change your beliefs. That's the cult, right? The cult. Or a gang. Gangs are the same. Gang is this mentality, right? We will protect you. We are doing good in the world. We have these codes, right? It's for the good of something. So you have this unsolvable riddle, end of the world, and you go chasing this. There's no resolution. God, there's no resolution. Pleiadian, there's no resolution. The cult never leads to enlightenment. There's no enlightenment because you're just doing the same thing. You just the human can only do so many things. If you do it in a cult or at home, what's the difference? Right? There's no solution, there's no end. And that's the key part of a virus. There's no answer, there's no end, there's no answer to the riddle. But there's a pain, there's a suffering. You feel like I need, and you get possessed. I gotta find the Pleiadians. And then, so that's the one thing, right? So you're changing your own beliefs. You're changing yourself, your perception, your beliefs. You're now looking for the prophecies. You're looking for the messages from the Pleiades. You're looking for reasons why God is so loving and full of compassion. Now you are reprogramming yourself. So the virus just needs to convince you to change your beliefs, right? Yes, and it's very compelling. And if you're not aware of this kind of technology, it's a technology, then you have no defense. Now, this kind of attack can come in many forms. It can be spread by a person, an infected person, and that hits your DNA, and over a period of time, you can get corrupted. It's a corruption of your DNA. It can be transmitted. You can be attacked. There are methods, technological methods, that can attack you and infect you. And it might not happen in one night. It might happen over a week. It might happen, during a certain illness. And so over a period of time, you become a convert. So for example, you might be a believer in UFOs and aliens, and then you get attacked, and all of a sudden you become a skeptic, and now you want evidence, and you don't believe it anymore, right? So there's this shift, right? You might be a metaphysician, a teacher of metaphysics, and then you might get hit, and you might start to see the virus. You might just start to see Jesus walking with his heart shining, and it might have these hallucinatory and auditory components. So you might go from a metaphysician, which is an atheist, and then you see this character, which you call Jesus, and I'm not denigrating Jesus, but there's no photograph of Jesus. There's no picture of Jesus. There's no drawing of Jesus. We don't know what he looks like. He could have been a short, fat, bald Jewish guy, right? So when you see this Jesus character with long flowing hair and a white skin coming at you, that's not necessarily Jesus, right? But that's the virus. The virus is now making you see this, and you become a convert, and you dedicate yourself to Christ. But in my books, if that kind of situation arises, it's likely an attack, an advanced attack, a genetic DNA attack. It's a science we have not figured out yet. So it's an advanced science. So when I do speak about it, yeah, people will say, well, I don't understand. It's an advanced science. And I've talked about some of this when I talk about the symbiotes, the symbiotes, and how they can reprogram you. They tap into your nervous system. So some of this technology taps into your nervous system, and it tracks what's in your own mind, what your own belief systems are, right? It knows you. And if you have certain pictures of Jesus, it taps into that and it brings it out. And so you see Jesus. If you have fear about the end of the world, it taps that out and it brings it out. If you got the Pleiadians in there somewhere, so it manipulates you at your most vulnerable level. Your thoughts are your worst enemy. And so that's the difference. That's the difference between people. If I have a Christian upbringing versus if I have say I always believed in aliens, when you get attacked by these viruses, they will bring out your own beliefs, right? But those are not necessarily true. So be aware that this stuff is around, and then be aware that once you start chasing try to answer the riddle, you want to find information to fill all the holes, because the program is very limited. It's like, feed me. And you got to say, well, the Greeks, they were talking about this black thing, and the Egyptians, they used to use spells to protect against, and then you go, oh, and then this book, this scripture, and then this guy said that, and now you are creating this thing which is entirely false, and you will set your whole belief system on that. And that's why is that bad? Is because it's the result of an attack, and it takes you off of your life. It takes you off of your course, because life is not that complicated. Life is not this huge riddle. When's the world gonna end? We know it's gonna end. It's not gonna end. Okay? Never, because that's a virus. It's never, ever, 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 ever gonna end. And if you say, well, maybe, no. If you say the Pleiadians from the 9th dimension, I say that their science is very primitive, and these people are very stupid. And something else I should add, something about these Pleiadians and Arcturians. When I first started out 13 years ago, was it 2005, almost 13 years ago, I was attacked by these groups, by the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and whatever, there's a bunch of other ones. I was told, number of people told me, you are Pleiadian, because they're infected. They're part of the operation. But I was lucky that I was in contact with genuine advanced cultures. Genuine, I mean, there's just something else about them. And so I was able to contrast the genuine culture, the authentic Stellan culture, with all of this stuff. All of this stuff, there's a lot of stuff here. You know, the alien invasion, there's gonna be an alien invasion, there's another one. False program. Where's the alien invasion? When's it coming? When? Another one. It's a false narrative, it's a virus. There's gonna be an alien invasion, there's an evil alien agenda. Where is it? Because my research says that it's already been 5,000 years we've been destroying ourselves and poisoning our children. They don't need an evil alien agenda. We're eating poisonous food, we're breathing poisonous air, and we're drinking contaminated water. Why do you need an evil alien agenda? It's already won. It's already over. It's already over. We're at war. We believe in religion, They don't need to invade. It's false. Again, it's false. I lost track. So I was lucky because I had these authentic cultures and I had all of this garbage, this UFO garbage. And I was able to understand the difference. And I was very tempted to go over here because everyone's very convincing and yelling and screaming. And people like negative. But I didn't like that. And I went over to this side. And I stayed to the side of truth. And it hasn't been easy, you know, because you get attacked. I get attacked a lot because of my association and because of my teachings and my writings. I get attacked a lot. But I decided early on I'm going to stick with authenticity. And that's the thing, the viruses, the false narratives cannot compete with authenticity. And they can't compete with that level of that frequency, that vibration. But it's not easy. I had my own challenges, and even though they can't infect me with this crazy stuff, they can affect, you know, my mental state, and they do throw me off at times, and they do make me they do try to distort my reality. And that's not because I'm crazy, that's because I get attacked. You can't explain that to the normal people, but because they don't understand that. But you know, that's just part of the journey. It's just, you know, it's just something you got to deal with, something you got to manage, or I got to manage. I have to manage. But at least, you know, I've avoided this crazy stuff. And you never know, and you should always reevaluate. Is my thinking based in fear? Is my thinking based in paranoia? Is there evidence? Does it make sense? Historically speaking, has this kind of thing ever happened? Right? And that's up to you to decide. I can't tell you what to believe, because it's your belief. But I can tell you, be aware of these false programs and their viruses, their attacks. Some of them can be done at a very high level, and they're technological, and they can really change you, right? Like a symbiote. And there's other stuff too that we'll talk about one day. But the symbiote can taps into your nervous system. The other way is if you listen to somebody who's infected, you might get secondary infection. And it might not be as serious, but you might also have that. And then you start to look for things. And then you find people, hey, you believe in Pleiadians? Oh my God, I thought I was going crazy. And then you form a group. And then it's kind of crazy to think, you know, that's what they want. That's how these viral weapons have been used for thousands of years to disarm society, to control society, right? Because you infect somebody, and then they infect people, and then they create a religion, and then they're all off track. They're not looking for the truth. They don't see the real perpetrators. Okay, so be careful of that. I know it's hard to explain. I've tried to explain it. Be careful if you're looking for something that's completely not there. You're trying to solve a riddle that has no solution. That's kind of the hint. And if you start to put things into it, take them out. Take them all out. Take everything out, and what do you have left? You have nothing. If you have substance, that, you know, if you have nothing there, that may be a sign.